Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of our podcast. Today we will talk about the day I faced my biggest fear. Are you ready? Let's go. It was a crisp autumn morning when I woke up with a knot in my stomach, the kind of knot that tightens when you know something monumental is on the horizon, something that both terrifies and beckons you. For years, I had been haunted by an overwhelming fear of public speaking, a fear that had controlled my life in ways subtle and profound, from declining leadership opportunities at work to avoiding even the most casual toasts at family dinners. But on that morning, the day of my company's annual leadership summit, I knew there would be no escape, for I had been chosen, volunteered, really, by a well-meaning colleague, to deliver the opening keynote in front of over 500 employees, including senior executives, mentors I admired, and peers who had never seen me beyond my quiet, diligent role. I remember sitting at the edge of my bed, staring at my reflection in the mirror, feeling the full weight of every insecurity I had ever known, the trembling hands, the racing heart, the voice that often betrayed me under pressure. Memories of past failures came flooding back, like the time in college when I froze during a debate, or the conference presentation I canceled last minute under the pretense of illness. But this time was different. I had made a promise to myself earlier that year, during a long walk after a particularly humbling performance review, that I would no longer let fear dictate the terms of my life. I enrolled in a local Toastmasters group, practiced breathing techniques, recorded myself speaking until I could stand the sound of my own voice, and, perhaps most importantly, opened up to friends about my struggles, allowing myself to be vulnerable for the first time in years. Their encouragement, their stories of similar battles, reminded me that I was not alone. So as I stood backstage, clutching my note cards with hands that still trembled despite months of preparation, I closed my eyes and breathed deeply, not to banish the fear but to acknowledge it, to coexist with it. When my name was announced and the spotlight hit, something unexpected happened. Instead of fleeing mentally or physically, I stepped forward. My heart pounded like a drum in my chest, but my voice, though shaky at first, grew stronger with every word. I spoke about leadership, yes, but also about fear, about how it had shaped me, stunted me, and ultimately propelled me toward growth. I told the room how vulnerability had become my greatest strength, and as I did, I saw nods, heard laughter in the right places, even caught sight of a few teary eyes. For the first time, I felt seen, not just as a professional but as a human being. When I finished, the applause that followed was deafening, but more than the sound, it was the energy I felt, a surge of liberation, as if chains had broken inside me. Colleagues I barely knew came up to share their own stories of fear and resilience. My manager, who had once questioned my readiness for leadership, pulled me aside and said, "You've got more power in your voice than you realize." And perhaps most moving of all, a young intern approached me later that afternoon, eyes wide with admiration, and whispered, "Thank you. I've been terrified of speaking too, but now I think I can try." That moment, more than the speech itself, solidified something within me, a quiet certainty that courage isn't the absence of fear but the decision to act despite it. Since that day, I've spoken at more events, led workshops, even coached others through their own journeys with fear. Each time, I feel that same pulse of anxiety, but now I see it as an old companion, no longer an enemy but a reminder of how far I've come. Facing my biggest fear didn't just change how others saw me, it transformed how I saw myself. It taught me that growth lies just beyond the edge of our comfort zones, and that every time we choose to step forward instead of shrinking back, we reclaim a piece of ourselves. That day, the day I stood on stage and shared not just insights but pieces of my soul, wasn't the end of fear but the beginning of freedom. And in that freedom, I found not only my voice but a deeper connection to others, a sense of purpose that had long eluded me. Looking back now, I can barely recognize the version of me who once hid in the shadows, paralyzed by what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. I still carry fear, but I carry it differently, with awareness, with compassion, with a willingness to listen to what it has to teach me. And perhaps that's the truest measure of growth, not that fear disappears, but that we learn to move through it with grace, with courage, and with the unwavering belief that on the other side of it lies something profoundly worth discovering, not perfection, but possibility. So we come to the end of our podcast today. Thank you very much for completing the episode and we'll see you in the next one. See you soon.